Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Data Dispatch. What's popping and locking? I hope you guys are having a great day. Let's talk about the market today because the S&P 500, the whole market in general, is sitting at record highs after we have a very positive CPI report showing signs that inflation is finally starting to cool. You heard that right. It's about time. We've been waiting for this whole year to finally get a good inflation report. We're finally starting to see a little bit of some cooling and easing of inflationary pressure. What this means right now, as we speak, literally, we have big hedge funds, Wall Street analysts, institutional investors that are starting to price in the probability of the first interest rate cut that they are predicting is going to be happening around September. Now, that is not actually too far from now, and this could have a big play on volatility coming up here in the near future, which can have an impact on Palantir. So, of course, we'll do a review on that, talk about anything that we got going on PLTR in terms of price action, looking into the articles, into the media, and seeing what we need to report on today. If you are a new or a returning viewer, thank you guys so much for watching. A smaller content creator, hit that like button, subscribe for daily videos, and of course, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm collecting all the data and dispatching it to your brains. Now, pop it up on the screen here. What we see with Palantir Technologies closes here at 2167. Looking at volume, a little bit lower than we have seen in the recent past. Now, remember, we did have the earnings kind of trading. Lots of volume does pick up around that time period. With this being said, you have Palantir that is still showing some good signs of consolidation. And I think this is really good for PLTR, especially after we saw this post-correction here after the earnings report, after we had a small adjustment to the future guidance that Palantir had reported. And I think they were just getting set to these high expectations that eventually became a little too unrealistic. And what we're seeing here is a little bit of an overreaction. I think that's justifiable to say that. And right now, like I said, recently, we've had this critical reversal that's been triggered at the 20 right here, and specifically talking about PLTR holding decently well at the 21. So we'll see if we get a little bit of a run up here, especially with the recent news that we could possibly be having this first interest rate cut that could be coming in September. As I said right here, S&P 500 breaches 5,300 as these records are starting to appear after the consumer price index came here. Now, it rose 0.3% over the previous month and 3.4% year over year in April. Those are the specific numbers for you guys right here. A deceleration from the March core inflation, which basically strips out the cost of food and gas. Now, what we did see here also in addition is the 10-year Treasury yield to fall 4.35%, its lowest level in a month. And like I said, sparking these new bets that rate cuts could come as soon as September, according to the CME Watch tool. Around 70% of traders are now expecting this. So we're going to have a lot of hopium and a lot of pricing in of this first interest rate cut because you got 70%, like I said, of the market that is starting to take a bet on this as soon as September. Now, if we come back to Palantir here, specifically what we do have for options by the end of the week, looking at the call volume, the $22 strike price is looking pretty attractive, showing me personally and everybody out there in the world that a lot of people are taking a short-term bet that Palantir is going to start to raise in value, getting possibly here and testing the mid-20s. People saying, are we starting to see a bullish setup that's starting to be created in terms of a technical pattern on top of the great news that we do have from the inflationary report? This could entirely be possible. We could see Palantir that starts to kind of build more upon itself in the mid-20s, which I think is incredibly important for its future expectations and future earnings and blah, 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 when everybody thinks Palantir is going to go to, especially if it wants to try to test any runs up to the 30s by the end of the year. Now, great article here, interesting by Motley Fool, talking about should you buy Palantir stock after the post-earnings sell-off. And I wanted to just take a little bit of some reading from this context here, get into the nitty-gritty, and talking about how, remember, the company beat expectations in Q1 for almost everything. Everybody's been we're seeing a change in agenda, especially with last video. We saw a lot of bearish kind of articles coming out talking about sell alerts for Palantir, even though Palantir had a very, very, very good quarter report. The one thing that justifies this kind of sell-off that we're seeing right here is the fact, of course, unfortunately, was the guidance for the full year of the company. They anticipated $2.68 billion to $2.69 billion, less than the expectations of $2.71 billion. It's a $0.03 billion change right here, and we're seeing a big sell-off. Like I did, well, we did see that. Now we're seeing a little bit of consolidation. So investors are concerned that demand may not be as strong as it appeared to be. I would disagree with this. And remember, with the quarter reports, we saw Palantir that came in with 915 AIP customers that they were talking about. We're seeing them having 5 AIP at minimum boot camps a day and really starting to get involved into the private sector. We've seen this with the recent quarters, especially looking at the commercial revenue and, of course, the commercial customer count. What we're seeing, retention, these companies starting to spend more. So with Palantir closing right here at the 21s, remember just a few days ago, it was $25 before those earnings, down about 15%. So anybody that is out there in the world looking at dollar cost average, getting in at a better position, that has a long-term bullish perspective on PLTR, hey, you could really view this as a 15% discount compared to what it did trade at. And talking about this little bit of an overreaction and guidance, what this really couples with, and a lot of the bears do pinpoint this, and it is a true value that we can't ignore, is the fact that Palantir does trade at a pretty high valuation. And right now it trades at a $47 billion valuation in terms of its market cap, and it's not a cheap stock. I agree with that. And it trades at really 60 times right now its estimated future earnings. And talking about when a stock is trading at such high multiples is that the bar is extremely high. And this is exactly what we're seeing with PLTR. We saw just a small adjustment in their future guidance levels revenue levels for the rest of the year, and we see a lot of volatility in terms of some sell-off. And especially with those expectations, I think the bar is going to continue to get set higher and higher and higher. That is because a lot of people are betting Palantir is going to increase in price and have positive earnings reports in the future quarters. And that is really a big gauge on how valuation is being set. However, Palantir sitting here in the 20s, I think just gives time for PLTR to personally kind of grow into its valuation. And I think this is really important too, that sometimes it's important for stock not just to go straight up, but to kind of have these different levels of areas, building consolidation, having support, and finding its grounding is important, especially, as I said, it's growing into its valuation. When on the institutional side, we're seeing here on Twitter, Goldman right here, starting to acquire shares. Ownership right here, they increased 31.3% of their PLTR shares with now over 7.6 million shares. So you do have institutional investors that are coming in right here, what you can see buying the dip on Palantir. And specifically, like I said, growth, profitability, momentum, all looking good right here. Thing, of course, the major criticism for Palantir is its valuation that, of course, has an F grade. We talk about this on Seeking Alpha. Quant ratings right now are sitting at a hold. If you want to get all this data, I am an affiliate with them. Get 20% off a premium membership down in the description below. Make sure you guys check that out. Otherwise, we're going to be taking a look, keeping you guys up to date on PLTR and, of course, in the market. One other kind of small thing that we did have, meme stocks are starting to cool off right now. Remember the GME and the AMC in the previous few days after we kind of had a return from Roaring Kitty, we starting to see a little bit of sell-off right now. So if you're into those, you can check them out, but expect a ton of volatility and kind of pure gamble on those ends. Other than that, the next quarter earnings, not here until August. We have some time. Lots of things for Palantir that they're going to gear up, going to be releasing different types of contracts. I'll be excited to report that to you guys as soon as I can get my hands on the information. Peace out, take care, and I'll catch you guys later.